Today on Monkey Life, John, Marina and Fong head out from Dao Tien to take injured baby douc langur Anthony for x-rays on the mainland.
It's good. Excellent. So now just focus on this little piece.
And the team head deep into the jungle for the first gibbon release in 3 years.
Really hard going, and especially with quite a heavy cage, so the boys are taking it in turns to carry.
But will the long-awaited return to the forest for golden-cheeked bin prove a success? This is Dao Tien Rescue Centre in Vietnam. It's the sister sanctuary of Monkey World in Dorset, and the staff here dedicate their lives to rescuing and rehabilitating endangered Vietnamese primates.
They have now set up their home range right in these batch of trees that we see here.
It's a 6,000-mile journey from the UK to the centre, which lies 160 miles northeast of Ho Chi Minh City. Since Dao Tien opened its doors 12 years ago, the team has managed to successfully rescue, rehabilitate and release back into the wild a large number of primates. And this morning, female golden-cheeked gibbon Bin is about to join that list. Monkey World Director Dr. Alison Cronin is overseeing the release.
This is it. We're just about to move Bin, who's overnighted in her travel crate in the hospital. She looks good because we're taking her out to the release site today. So we need to sort of get on the road before it gets too hot, and then have to travel through the national park to our release site at douc, which is fantastic.
Yesterday, wildlife vet John Lewis fitted Bin with a GPS collar, which will enable the team to track her movements after she's been released into the forests of Cat Tien National Park. But first, they have to get there.
Yeah. Rock and roll.
It's a taxing 23-kilometre journey to the site by boat and truck, followed by an arduous 2-kilometre trek through the dense jungle in the rising heat. It's all a bit unsettling for Bin, who for the last 3 years has been living the quiet life in the semi-free area on Dao Tien. But Alison is pleased with how she seems to be coping.
Bin's doing really good, actually. I'm impressed. She's fit, she's healthy. She's also not fighting or even considering that collar around her neck, which is a good thing. All good so far.
Before the final part of the truck journey, Alison and her colleagues stop at a local ranger station to link up with wildlife guards, known as the Kim Lam. They will help carry the cage and guide the team through the forest to the release site, which was set up ahead of time while they were waiting for permission to go ahead. They'll also be responsible for protecting Bin from poachers once she's been released. The truck has gone as far as it can.
All ready to go.
The last 2 kilometres through thick forests to the release site have to be done on foot. It's no easy task carrying a heavy cage into the rainforest along a track, which has only recently been cleared in preparation for the big day. The ground underfoot is uneven, and the team need to stop constantly and swap over as the heat increases.
Switching. As we get further out into the forest, it's getting a bit thicker and more secondary forest, really hard going, and especially with quite a heavy cage, so the boys are taking it in turns to carry Bin, but it's beautiful forest.
The forest is perfect for a gibbon release. High trees, a dense canopy, and lots of fruiting trees.
Favorite food for gibbon, so you can eat it.
Okay. Yeah, so the wild fruits. Hai and I were just discussing the fruits and that there aren't as many figs in this area, but you see, this is what a gibbon eats, the slime around a big pit. And that's the sum and total of the food source, really, so. Tastes nice too.
Following an arduous 2-hour slog, they arrive at the release site. Lee works to quickly install water and food bowls. Bin will have to spend 2 nights in the large cage getting used to the sights, sounds and smells of the forest before being let out. It'll be an anxious 48 hours for the team.
Nerve-wracking time. An animal stuck in a cage out in the forest is actually very vulnerable. So what Lee's doing right now is a safety hatch for the food bowl, because we've had individuals in release cages before and had reticulated pythons go inside the cage to try and get at the animals, because this, you know, the wild's a dangerous place.
With everything set, the carrying cage slide is opened, and after a moment's hesitation, Bin goes straight into the holding area. Although rather agitated, she does help herself to some fruit.
Nerves are high, emotions are high, but it's part and parcel. We have to roll with it. We have to keep those under control. So it's time for us to wrap up and leave her be.
For 48 hours, she'll be left to acclimatise to these new surroundings, while most of the team head back to Dao Tien. They're happy that, so far, this long-awaited gibbon release is coming to fruition. But work on the island never stops. It's 24/7 for the team, whether looking after the gibbons during the day or preparing night feeds for the loris. The demands on the staff never change, whatever the weather. The ultimate goal is to rehabilitate and release back into the wild every primate that arrives here. Although, unfortunately, some have suffered so much, they'll never make it back. If Bin's release is successful, a family group of golden-cheeked gibbons has been tagged as the next to be put back into the forests of Vietnam.
There's Kiz. Hey, Kiz. Wow, look at that.
Kizzy and Dong and their new infant.
They're a happy family because they've only just had a new baby about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So really nice to see them out in our semi-wild enclosure, because these guys are now fit and ready for release. So it's a young family group who's grown up in the trees and is ticking all of those boxes that Marina and her team are looking for. So gibbons that have a head for heights are eating some of the wild plants and foliage, have a baby on board, so they should stay together as a group. And now the last key is finding that perfect patch of forest for them to go back to the wild. And I think we're ready to go. It's going to be stressful, but before we leave here, we're going to try and catch Mr. Dom and put that radio collar on him, and that will be a very stressful situation. But we need to know what the gibbons are doing once we release them, so it's a critical part of the work.
While Alison is checking the next candidates for release, Dr. Marina Kenyon, who runs Dao Tien, vet John Lewis and keeper Fong are heading across to the mainland with baby douc langur Anthony, a victim of poachers. Since arriving at Dao Tien as a tiny infant with gunshot wounds, he's been unable to fully use his left arm and hand. If he's ever going to be released back into the trees in the future, it's vital that he can. After examining the baby douc, John decided an X-ray was in order before he could make a full diagnosis. The only place this can be done is on the mainland. Fortunately, it's just a boat ride and a short journey by road to the nearest town, situated 30 minutes away.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to meet you.
Good morning.
While John sets up his equipment, Fong keeps Anthony as calm and relaxed as possible.
I want to anaesthetise the douc to get the X-rays, because when animals wriggling around, the X-rays aren't, they're not going to be diagnostic. So we need to anaesthetise him, To do that, the safest thing is to use gas. We have no gas here, so we brought it all from the Dao Tien. However, to carry it on a boat and a car, it has to be in pieces. So now we've got to reverse the process. So I think we're in business.
John wants to take a number of x-rays, not just of Anthony's wrist, but also to check for any gun pellets that may still be under the monkey's skin.
I want the overall review of body and then detail on arm.
Okay.
We'll put him on the table for.
Using anaesthetic gas gives John a fair amount of control of Anthony's sedation. But just in case he does wake up, John uses tape as a precaution.
Should we x-ray the body first and then the limbs?
With everything in position, they start with a full body x-ray.
So that's one.
And it's good news so far.
There's no shotgun pellets in him, which is good. And now we're focusing on getting x-rays of the affected wrist.
Satisfied, they move on to Anthony's problematic wrist. He has trouble opening his hand and fully extending his fingers. John suspects he may have sustained an injury to it when his mother was shot and he was stolen from the wild. Hopefully, the x-ray will shed some light on the problem.
No, it's good. Okay. Excellent. So now just focus on this little piece. Yeah? Yeah. Brilliant.
Even with two different views, there's nothing immediately obvious. John will need more time to study them.
We'll take the x-rays back to Dao Tien and I can sit down quietly and look at them in far more detail and come up with, hopefully, a plan. If I can't work out what is wrong, I'll try and take advice from other people, for example, a veterinary orthopedic.
It's a frustrating outcome for Marina too.
I would have liked a simple answer, and it's not going to be simple, so I just hope we can find a reason for the problem.
With Anthony recovered and back in the safe hands of his keeper Fong, the team head back to Dao Tien. There, John can study the x-rays more closely and hopefully find an answer to Anthony's problem. Marina and John have arrived back at Dao Tien with baby douc langur Anthony, following a visit to the mainland to x-ray his injured arm. One individual who's very excited to see him home again is his playmate, Me. While the baby doucs get reacquainted after an afternoon apart, John takes the opportunity to study the x-rays in more detail.
I don't see on that anything bony, which tells me why he's holding this hand like this and why he's unable to use it. Okay. Which leaves another couple of possibilities. One is nerve damage or even tendon damage, but I think this arm has less muscle and probably shorter tendons because it's been unused, as it were.
The tendons in Anthony's arm need exercise and movement to maintain elasticity. The fact that he hasn't been using it fully may have exacerbated the condition, causing the tendons to shorten. John's recommendation is a course of physiotherapy, which may improve the condition. With so many primates in the region in need of help, it's no wonder Dao Tien is always seeking to improve and expand the facilities within its 56-hectare area. The team are in the process of building a new semi-free enclosure for a pair of pygmy lorises. As with the gibbons, this is a Phase 2 area, where they will go to get accustomed to life in the trees before being released back into the wild. Dao Tien has had huge success with lorises, with more than 60 successfully returned to the forest in the last 5 years alone.
It's a big effort, but we're trying to address and respond to the wrongs that have been done by human beings previous in their life and deal with that. So, and if we can set up a protocol for getting these animals back out into the wild then that's a good thing for future generations. And I guess that's where you sort of have to keep your head, is that even though we're spending an awful lot of time and effort in what's going to be a home for one pair of loris, it'll hopefully set the stage and the knowledge for not only our pygmy loris, but loris rehabilitation work in different countries throughout Southeast Asia.
With so many primates to look after at the centre, visits from the vet are crucial in maintaining the health of the various species. And there's no let-up for John on this trip. Today, he needs to anaesthetise Ha, a 36-year-old male gibbon with a dental issue.
You're good.
Unfortunately for John, Ha is defying his age. He's quick off the mark and constantly dodging John's anaesthetic flying darts. But Lee tries Plan B and eventually manages to inject him by hand.
Phew. Given that we've run out of usable darts, dart needles, and everything else, the canine tooth has clearly got to come out. It's broken, it's been broken a long time. And he has had abscesses on the face as a result of infection tracking up the tooth root. So we have him, we'll go and fix that tooth now.
The centre has its own animal hospital, so health checks and minor surgical procedures can be carried out on site. But it's hot and humid on the island all year round, and in the confines of the small surgery, the heat adds to an already challenging task.
I think that's the most significant one because this is the one that's causing abscesses on his face. It's going to be a toughie.
After 30 minutes of pushing and probing, the dead tooth is extracted.
And the whole tooth is out.
It's another tick against John's long to-do list, and for now, he can take a break. Tomorrow, he'll join the team travelling back to Dao Tien for the first gibbon release in 3 years. It's the start of a huge day for everyone involved at Dao Tien. After 48 hours in a holding cage at a release site in Dao Tien National Park, female golden-cheeked gibbon Bin is going to be released back into the wild. It's what the team have been working towards over the last few years, and if successful, could pave the way for many more gibbons to be released in the near future.
Today's the day. Miss Bin is going free, and we'll just have to see. It's a very nerve-wracking time because that first moment coming out of the cage, we need to keep it really calm, quiet, so she doesn't just sprint away. You really want her to sort of relax, hang around, go up in the trees and consider which direction she's gonna head. So we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. But she's been calm and relaxed for 2 days, and this is it, the beginning of our next round of releases. And Bin's leading the way for what are 6 or 7 others to come in the next few weeks or months. So it's a big deal today.
Joining them is Dr. Curtis Pay, who helped Alison and her late husband Jim set up Dao Tien 12 years ago and has been supportive ever since. They're travelling by road to the edge of Dao Tien. Then they'll make the 2-kilometre trek to the release site on foot. There's a lot riding on the next few hours.
So we're hoping from this site, once Bin has established her home range, we can then start to rosebud other groups in this area and slowly increasing the effective protection zone. So yeah, it's all eyes on Bin. If this goes really, really well, then we can slowly trickle more gibbon groups out and slowly expand the Gabrielli population back into its original zone where it would have been 100 years ago.
Marina and her team have spent years gathering data to help them learn and understand how gibbons survive and flourish in their native forest. The last 2 releases didn't go to plan. A lack of fruiting trees and the appearance of a wild male gibbon didn't help matters. Having spent the last 3 years taking stock, they're now confident that the release of 10-year-old Bin will be a success.
It's always an emotional one. I mean, we've been working on this project now. This is my 20th year out here. Marina's about the same. And we haven't put as many gibbons back out as we would have liked to. So this is the new generation, if you will. Generation 2 of releases, where we've ticked more of those boxes that we learned from Generation 1. So this is a new start of a new era of the releases for the gibbons, which we need to get on with because Dao Tien's overcrowded.
For the last 2 nights, a keeper from Dao Tien has camped out close to the release cage to keep an eye on Bin and to top up her food and water.
Mr. Bin says she's eating really, really well. He says she's not off her food.
With so many people around, Bin is aware something is up. Alison wants to release her before she gets too agitated and stressed. The team take a step back into the forest, leaving care worker Mr. Bin to unlock the slide. Bin wastes no time, leaping from the cage. And heading high into the tree canopy.
So far, so good. She's moving well through the trees, and she's also been looking around, and I just saw her go and pick through some trees and start eating some leaf. So far, so good. She looks fabulous in the trees, but at the same time, you know, she's looking at me right now. We should probably clear off and leave her to it to find her own feet and do her own thing and rely on Mr. Bin and the Dao Tien team to follow her and let us know in the coming days how she's going. That collar's essential to everything. I think we're going to win this small battle and that I'll be back in a few months' time to be releasing more gibbons, and it's just the start of our next round for all of those others back on Dao Tien.
Next time on Monkey Life. Slow Loris Bruce is back under the knife, but the cause of his problem is still a mystery.
Doesn't feel like an abscess about to burst.
Plus, the team's attempt to get the woolies to work for their breakfast bears fruit.